Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors bounce back from their shock and very disappointing defeat to the Milwaukee Bucks on Monday night. They grab a 104-93 victory here over the Milwaukee Bucks at Chase Center, playing without Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, terrific, Draymond Green, terrific. Plenty to get into. Let me know what you think from that game in the YouTube comments. Really eases the pain of yesterday's loss. Obviously, it's still frustrating. It would have been nice to win both of these games, but I think going into this back-to-back, if the Warriors could get at least one of them, then that's sufficient. And the fact they're able to snatch this game without Steph is huge. And I didn't think they would win. I was obviously pessimistic after the game, as everyone was after yesterday's game. That was a really disappointing one. And then you hear that Steph's likely going to be out. Then it gets confirmed earlier today that he is out, and you think, well, Giannis, Dame looking to bounce back from a disappointing loss themselves. It's going to be a tough one, but credit has to go to Jimmy. Credit has to go to Draymond. Draymond's performance defensively, it's almost where I want to start. Like, Jimmy's going to get a lot of the plaudits and stuff for what he did offensively, and we'll get into that. I don't think he can guard Giannis Antetokounmpo any better than Draymond did tonight. That was depoy level stuff. That was remarkable. He kept Giannis to 20 points on 5 of 16 shooting from the floor. The way he was able to bottle him up, and you got to remember, like, Draymond's giving up 5 inches in that matchup. Like, it's not like, I don't think we necessarily think of Giannis as like a legitimate 7-footer as such, like a Jokic or something like that. But he's still 6'11", and Draymond's 6'6". He's giving up plenty of size in that matchup. And for him to be able to guard Giannis the way he did throughout the entire game, played with 5 fouls there over the final 4 minutes or so, that was just remarkably good defense. Like, you cannot say enough for how good Draymond Green was on the defensive side of the ball. And that was what ultimately got the Warriors the win. Like, we can point to how good Jimmy was in leading the offense. We can point to how good Pods was in his return from a 5-game absence with the back issue. We can talk about an efficient 15-point performance from Buddy Hield, who made a really big difference off the bench. We can talk about those 3 guys offensively, but it was the Warrior defense. They keep Giannis to 5 of 16. Dame went, 7 of 16 or 7 of 18? 6 of 18, sorry, he was 6 of 18. Kuzma was 7 of 16. Those 3 guys that are obviously the main 3 guys for the Bucks shot a combined 18 of 50 from the floor. The Bucks, as a result, shot 39.2% from the floor, less than 32% from 3-point range as well. The Warriors limit them to 93 points, and that's ultimately how they won the game, and Draymond led the way there. So a huge result here. I'm going to get into your comments because I know we're going to get into plenty of stuff, both from a team and individual standpoints, plenty to get to. So I'll start with your comments here. Robbie says, I figured out why we lost last game. We didn't have Pods. Credit to him. 5-game absence, and it looked like he didn't miss a beat whatsoever. Finished with 17 points, which is second behind Jimmy. Really efficient on a night in a low-scoring game. 6 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3-point range. 2 huge threes late in the final 3 minutes, or final 2.5 minutes there. The Bucks had pulled to within 3. It was a really weird game. I thought the Bucks were absolutely goddamn awful in the first half. And then the Warriors got out to a 17-point lead. Early third quarter, they looked like they were in full control. And then the Bucks just ripped off a huge run and quite quickly got back into the game and got in front. And the Bucks got up 6 with a minute to go in the third quarter, and you thought, okay, well, this has got a loss written all over it. And that run from the Bucks in the third quarter, I mean, the Warriors hurt themselves with horrific turnovers, 10 turnovers in the third alone. Some really poor shot selection, real lack of ball and player movement. I thought the offense was so stagnant, really poor, and you thought it had a loss written all over it. And it was the kind of third quarter run from the Bucks that I expected the Warriors to provide yesterday against the Nuggets, like thinking, okay, the Nuggets are without their best player. We'll go on a bit of a run here and win the game. And that's what I thought Golden State were going to do yesterday. And then Milwaukee do it today. And I think, okay, well, chances here aren't great. But then the Warriors outscore the Bucks 34-17 over the final 13 minutes of the game. Again, just absolutely suffocated them on the offensive end of the floor. And Pods was huge offensively. Again, the Bucks were within 3 still with just under 2.5 minutes to go. Pods hits that big 3, first of all, to extend out to 6. Warriors get another stop. Jimmy finds GP2 for a little flip shot at the rim to go up 8, and then Pods hits that basically dagger 3 to go up 11, and that's it. So huge performance from Brandon Podziemski, and I think whenever he's kind of out of the lineup, I feel like we underplay and undervalue his importance to the team. I think he's vitally important. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here with the starting lineup moving forward. Obviously, Pod's got the start tonight without Steph. They just kind of started big with Moody, Jimmy, Draymond, and QP. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward here. Obviously, Steph's got to come back. Do they go back to what they were doing prior to Pods' injury, which was kind of working well with him and Steph and obviously Moody, Jimmy, and Dre? I don't know. It's a tough one because, the Warriors are still fairly deep here. They've got a number of guys, obviously, in the rotation who warrant heavy minutes. Priscilla says Pods is the difference. Robbie says, glad JK made his free throws, but he searched for fouls too much when he wasn't getting any. I want to kind of stay off Kuminga for a little bit because I'll get to him, but I want to start on the positives first. Dublin Marsh says, Warriors win, JK is frustrating. Robbie says, I think the issue with JK right now is that they seem unsure what to run on offense with him right now, so he's playing so much ISO ball. Dublin Marsh says, I would love to see JK play more like GP2. Said JK did have a sweet putback. All right, okay, let's get into Kuminga because he's clearly a talking point. That was one of the worst games I've seen from him in a long time. Like, he was awful. Like, he scored 10 points, 10 shots to do so, 2 of 10 from the floor. Did make all 6 of his free throws, so I guess that's the rare positive. But some of his shot selection, again, it's just night and day from his first game back against the Kings where he got 18 points so easily, like without even trying. And you thought, okay, this is how it's going to, like, this is how it can look. This is how Jonathan Kuminga can be super, super valuable for this team with his athleticism and just natural talent scoring the ball. But in this game, it feels like, and even yesterday's game against the Nuggets, it feels like he's just pressing too much. Like, he's just trying too hard. And again, when they get into that isolation stuff, like, he was really aggressive early, trying to get to the rim and stuff. But if he's going to try and do that, it needs to be against legitimate mismatches. I think the Warriors can find something better if it's not a legitimate mismatch. And when he's trying Giannis Antetokounmpo at the rim on multiple occasions, that's clearly just not a mismatch. And Giannis blocked him once, and he missed a couple. He missed a few layups that he just generally. He had a play in the third quarter where he missed a wide open layup, then missed the putback attempt, and I was like, what are we doing here? So he was a real negative in this game. Like, Jonathan Kuminga's game was horrific. I still don't really like some of the lineups that Steve's putting. Like, I just don't want to see Kuminga and Looney on the floor together whatsoever at any point. I want to see Kuminga and Draymond or Kuminga and Post. Now, I get Post and Kuminga as young players are still very, very mistake prone, and I think that Steve wants to limit how much those two guys play together. But I just think the spacing that Quentin provides, obviously, for JK, that was the one of the more exciting factors for me ahead of JK's return is what Quentin Post could do for him. And we just haven't really seen it enough, I don't think. So a really poor Jonathan Kuminga game. I still like JK. I don't want to hate on him too much. This is just a really, really bad performance after not a great performance yesterday, either after not a great performance on. So he's basically one good performance out of 4 games here upon return. It was always going to be a bit clunky to start. I want to give it a couple of weeks. He's still trying to round into shape. I think oftentimes kind of the second, third, fourth game back from a long-term, injury where he's missed 31 games, I think that can often be harder than the first games because the first game, like, you're so amped up, you're so ready to go, you bring the intensity, you just want to be out there and playing. I think it's a little bit easier to come back in your first game back than it is, in that second, third, and fourth game, as I say. So I want to give it a couple of weeks here and not go too early, but obviously JK drawing a lot of criticism on social media during and after this game, and it's pretty hard to defend that. Like, he had an absolute stinker, no doubt about that. Nick says, when Steph is having a bad shooting night, Butler should take over. Yeah, I mean, it's just, as much as I didn't expect the Warriors to win this game, the fact they have a second legitimate go-to guy offensively who can create everything for you, like, he's not just, and this is the difference between a Butler and a Kuminga, for example, is that, Jimmy got his 24 points in this game, but he had 10 assists. Like, he was absolutely doing everything for the Warriors offensively. And to have another guy capable of doing that next to Steph is just been obviously so difference making for this team. And this is kind of the first game we've seen Jimmy without Steph. And just to have that option there available. Like the Warriors just clearly, like the Warriors probably lose this game by 15 or 20 in the before the Butler trade, right? They probably lose this game easily because they just don't have that offensive creator to go to. And again, I didn't expect them to win this game, but they always, when they've got Jimmy and they've got at least one guy out there who's a legitimate offensive star and proven offensive star who's not only a scorer but also makes his teammates better, that gives you a chance in basically every game you play. And particularly against the Bucks team who are decent, but they're not absolutely in the top tier of elite teams in the league. They're not a top, 3-4 team in the league. So on your home floor, Warriors were capable of winning a game like this. And fortunately, they were able to take advantage and particularly defensively. They were absolutely magnificent. And Jimmy was able to carry the offense with some help from Pods and Buddy. Thandex says we needed post yesterday for the spacing. Steve should have trusted him. Saw someone on social media say before that it's like, unless Post is getting absolutely cooked multiple plays in a row defensively, then there's no reason not to play him for 20 minutes a night because of what he does offensively. And the guy, what did he put? I think he put up 8 threes in the first half. Like, he's a 7-footer just absolutely firing away from beyond the arc. And I love it because he shoots 42% from deep. So he finishes this game, played 23 minutes, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 10, 4 of 9 from deep. In the end, he was a +9 in the game. Bit of foul trouble. Yes, he's got stuff, limitations defensively, right? Like, he's no good on the perimeter. Like, if he gets switched out, or there was a play I remember in the third quarter where the Bucks were making their big run. I think they nailed 3 straight triples, and one of those was a pick and fade where Lopez just spaced out onto the top of the arc, and Post was so late closing out as a wide open 3 for Lopez. Like, he's going to struggle in those matchups. I get it, but so did like every 7-footer. Like, how many 7-footers don't struggle when they're switched out onto the perimeter or they're forced to close out to shooters? Like, that's just what being that big and tall is, right? You are more limited with your mobility. Like, look at Lopez. Lopez is the same. This is why I think Lopez is such a great comparison for Quentin Post and who he could become on the leg. Like, remember that play I don't know if it was late third or early, I think it might have been early fourth, where the ball was swung to Jimmy in the corner and Jimmy just blew by Lopez as if he wasn't even there and got to the rim, and Lillard was forced to foul him. Like, and that was a play where it's like, yeah, that's just a legit 7-footer who is just not comfortable outside the paint. Right. And as a result, like, the Warriors are going to be giving up some stuff defensively again on certain nights against certain opposition. And I just think that's part of it. Right. But what he does offensively, I think can, obviously can really help. We've seen that already in his rookie year. And defensively, I think as a rim protector, I think he's been a lot better. Like, he's been improving game on game here over recent weeks. I think it's been a super positive the way he's actually improved as a defender here, even though obviously the limitations from a mobility standpoint is going to make things difficult for him at times, particularly when a couple of times where he's guarding Dame on the drive and he just can't help but foul him, right? Or Kuzma, drives one and gets an and one on posts. These things happen, right? And I'm never going to be too critical of him for that. I just think what he does offensively needs to be playing 20 plus minutes a night at least. Sorry, just trying to catch up with it. Let me get through some comments here. Sorry, just trying to get through some comments here. Robbie says, I agree that a GP2 role is perfect for JK. Maybe he felt the pressure of Steph off the court. Potentially. Thandex says Dre's defense was really good. I wouldn't even say really good. I'd say absolutely ridiculously amazing. Like, it was, again, depoy level stuff. Thenix says also people owe Pods an apology for all the hate he was getting. Been fantastic here over the second half of the season. Empire says JK played like Buddy on a bad day. Yeah, it was a Buddy-like performance. He was terrible. And then, kind of compounded the issues. He was that frustrated. He committed that flagrant 1 foul, which could have possibly been a flagrant 2, and he could get kicked out. When they were reviewing that, I was like, is it going to be the worst thing if JK gets kicked out here? Because he is being a negative right now. Marsh says they should absolutely try to defer to others when Steph is not playing well. I'm glad we aren't dealing with Clay this season. Interesting to bring Clay into it, but anyway. Thanex says Clippers winning. Good thing we won. Yeah, the Clippers got a 132-119 victory over the Cavs, which means they still remain close in the West standings. Obviously, the Warriors stick in sixth with this victory. They would have fallen. They would have fallen to eighth if they'd lost this. They would have fallen to eighth. They would have fallen not only behind the Timberwolves but the Clippers as well. So a big win this one. Priscilla says Clippers are dangerous when everyone is healthy. Double Masters Clippers have been dangerous when healthy for 5 years. As it turns out, they are rarely healthy. Empire says, yeah, we have to stay away from the play-in tournament. Warriors do not need to play the Mavericks or the Clippers. I think my biggest concern is going to be, I'm okay with I'm not okay with making the play-in tournament, but it would be okay making the play-in tournament if you make sure you win the first one and finish seventh. Obviously, that's not ideal. You don't want to do that, but I think finishing seventh would still be okay because I'm not sure who's finishing second right now. If it's Denver, then that's a problem. I don't want to face the Nuggets. But, if the Rockets stay second or whatever, I'm happy to play Houston. Berserkman says, good game. Did not expect this win at all, but the whole team came out with urgency. Robbie says, Draymond for Depoy. Robert says, I'm happy now. Berserkman says, was nice seeing TJD out there. Bucks were picking on post. Yeah, TJD got some minutes in the first half. Not a whole lot. What did he play? 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Got fouled by Giannis once. Went to the free throw line. Made 1 or 2. Had a rebound. Other than that, didn't do a whole lot. Was a +7 in the game though, so positive minutes for Trace Jackson Davis, I suppose, from a team standpoint. Oyster says Warriors are unstoppable when ball security is unlocked. Yep. Anytime an opposing team goes on a big run, it's always because of the Warriors just turning the ball over and not even getting shots up, right? And to be fair, they're not alone. Like, that's just what happens in most games in any level of basketball. Like, I played social league basketball last night, and some of our turnovers were just goddamn awful. Like, I was so pissed. You've never seen. I think the fact the Warriors lost yesterday probably exacerbated my anger in our social league game last night. Like, I was getting super frustrated. I'm surprised I didn't get teed up, to be honest. In a social league game on a Tuesday night. Gamer F2P says, are you feeling better now? That's an appropriate question based on what I just said. Yeah, no, I'm feeling good. Great win this one. It's still a frustrating loss yesterday, no doubt about that, but this certainly eases the pain of it. No doubt about that. Berserkman says, Warriors do need to bring Pods back into the starting lineup. With Dre at the 5, it's important to set a defensive tone early, have QP come off the bench for extra firepower. The other thing with that is I think if you're bringing Post off the bench, it's probably easier to bench Looney. And the Looney minutes still, to me, he was okay in this game, but he only played 6 minutes, 24 seconds. I think what you might see is them go small again with Draymond at the 5, Pods back into the starting lineup, and then bring Post off the bench and still have Post play 20 to 25 minutes a game. But that means you can kind of cover the center position a little bit easier there. The minutes were interesting. Guy Santos saw his minutes cut, 8 minutes 22. Kuminga still played nearly 24, but was absolutely terrible. But for the Warriors to have championship credentials, they're just going to have to they're going to need a good Kuminga, right? So I think you just got to play him through this, right? And hope that things turn around for him based on what he's done the last couple of nights. Young West says Buddy Steele on 3 at the end of the third quarter, turn this game around. That was that play, and then the Butler foul. So the Bucks got done twice in the space of 2 minutes? It was like the last play of the third, and then one of the first plays of the fourth. AJ Green fouls Jimmy on a step back 3 with 1.5 seconds left or whatever it was. In the third quarter, Jimmy makes all 3 free throws. That gives the Warriors a 78-76 lead entering the fourth after they were down 6 with a minute to play in the third. They went on basically, what was it, a 7-0 run? No, 8-0 run. They went on an 8-0 run. So Kuminga turned the ball over on a travel with 52 seconds left. The Bucks up 6. He thought, geez, okay, this isn't great. Then Hill got that steal and 3 in transition that someone just mentioned with 41 seconds left. Porter Jr. missed a layup. Kuminga got to the free throw line, made 2 free throws. Kuzma missed a 3, and then Butler. So it was an 8-0 run over the last 40 seconds of the third quarter. That was huge. And then fourth quarter, Jimmy gets that and one where Porter fouls him. That was in the first minute of the fourth quarter. That was the first point of the fourth quarter was that Jimmy step back, which looked like a three, but there was a long two. Again, why the Bucks? The Bucks, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'd be super pissed. I'd feel like I did as a Warrior fan yesterday. Like playing against the Warriors without Steph. How do you lose that game? Right? How do you lose? I'd be super, super disappointed if I was a Milwaukee fan right now. And some of the defensive stuff, in terms of fouling Butler twice there at the end of the third and the start of the fourth. Don't know what they were doing. Gamer FTP says fully healthy Bucks, no one fully healthy Warriors on a back end of a back-to-back easy dub. Yeah, surprise win. Empire says JK would make more shots if he stops trying to force foul contact. Yeah, you might have a point. He does get to the line a lot, and again, good to see him make his free throws in this one, but that was about the only positive from him from an individual standpoint in this game. Jackson says JK saw Giannis get fouls, forcing his way to the basket and try to copy, but hasn't realized he's not a superstar and won't get those calls. Good shout by you. I think, certainly doesn't get the superstar whistle, JK, yet, that's for sure. Berserk Monk says, I think Steph needs to rest these next two games, let JK, I guess, get more runway. Yeah, you could probably, the Raptors are trying to tank at the moment. You play them Thursday. You could probably rest Steph again, to be honest, and still win the game, but I don't know. Like, at the same time, there's only, what do we got, 14 games left? 13 games left? 13 games left now, I think. So I suppose you want to try and when you say you want to get JK runway, that's fair, but I think you also want to get JK runway playing alongside Steph, right? And trying to reintegrate your full rotation, because now you got Pods back in the mix. Like Thursday, yes, it's only against the Raptors, so maybe you do rest some guys, but otherwise it should be the full rotation available for Steve Kerr. Like, all Warriors should have an empty injury report, you'd imagine. So that'll be interesting to see, because that's the first time for a long time we'll get in fact, perhaps the first time ever, right, with since this trade, that the Warriors you're going to get a full look at what the Warrior rotation looks like. You're going to have 11 guys who will warrant minutes. You might see Looney out. You may see Guy Santos out, or at least those two guys getting very limited minutes. We'll see how much Kuminga plays. We'll see how much Buddy Hield plays. It's going to be fascinating. Young West says, Jimmy Draymond MVPs of this game. Honorable mention to Pods. All three of those guys, terrific. And honorable mention to Buddy Hield. Warriors are 7-3 without Curry, and JK is the reason for this. They are 1-0 without Curry and with Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, Kuminga's had some games earlier in the season without Steph where he's taken over and helped the Warriors to victory, no doubt about that, but he was very poor in this game. Robbie says, if we think back before JK's injury, he was so good at drawing guard mismatches, he needs to start doing that again. Yeah, like, I've got no issues with him, posting up or trying to take someone off the dribble, as long as that person is a legitimate mismatch in terms of they're either big and incredibly slow so he can get by them, or they're super small. Right? That's fine, because he is like usually quite unstoppable at the rim. And I think some of this stuff, again, is like he's missed 31 games. Some of his feel and touch around the basket clearly just isn't there. Usually he's like a reasonably efficient finisher around the rim. So I don't know. I'm still trying to be optimistic. Berserk Monk says the Nuggets have won a few games without Jokic. Does that mean something? Just kidding. Greg says JK has only played 3 games, so 1 out of 3 better than 1 out of 4. No, because he returned against the Kings, Knicks, and then this back-to-back. So he's played 4. Berserkmonk says, I don't trust JK's ball handling and decision-making, but he's a great play finisher. Agree with that. And that's what he was doing on Thursday against the Kings in his return. He was a play finisher, not necessarily a play creator, right? And I think that's a big difference there in terms of trying to get him being efficient and getting him as a valuable piece of this rotation. Young West says, every time Post shoots a 3, I think it's going in. Man, that dude he's incredible. And that's why, I think he just needs to play 20 minutes a game. I know you give up stuff defensively, but man, I think you just got to try and match his minutes with a in a game like today, it's hard because he has to try and guard Lopez out on the perimeter. Like, obviously he's not going to guard Giannis one-on-one, but Thursday you come up against a guy like Jakob Poeltl. Like, I think Post can play a heap, right? Because Jakob Poeltl, yes, he's got like little flip shots and whatnot from inside the free throw line, but he's not extending out. He's not shooting jumpers, right? And so Post can try and play in more drop coverage. Like, how many snipers do the Raptors have, like a Steph or a Dame that, are going to come off a screen and just bury threes? Like, I don't think they really have anyone doing that. So to me, like, that kind of matchup is a perfect one for Quentin Post, for him to play as many minutes as you possibly can get out of him. Because, I don't see him necessarily being a huge liability defensively in a matchup like that. And obviously what he brings offensively, I mean, he's just a super consistent shooter. I mean, this is over 30 games now, 42% from three after 2 college years where he was in excess of like 43% from three. It's just one of the best 7-foot 3-point shooters in the league. That's just flat out facts. Robert says JK should pat himself on how Jaylen Brown plays, not Giannis. I know Jalen's jump shot can kind of still come and go a little bit, but I think his jump is far better than JK's. That'd be the main difference. Podziemski says Jaylen Brown's a good ball handler, passer, and great on-ball defense. His shooting is awful, and his off-ball defense is bad. I wouldn't say his shooting's like awful. I think it's better than Kuminga's. Yeah, he's just a better player than Kuminga. Like, if Kuminga got to Jaylen Brown level, that would be a huge win at this point. Not counting on it though. Empire says, are the Warriors better when missing Curry rather than Jimmy? Like, if Curry was playing and not Jimmy, do you think the Warriors would still win? I'm not sure they'd be able to play the defense they were able to in this game. So you might be onto something. Like, obviously, Jimmy's far more of a two-way player than Steph. That's nothing against Steph. It's just obviously the size limitations he has. So I would suggest that maybe they don't win this game because they can't keep the Bucks to 93 points. Because when Steph's out there, must be said, like, that's a guy that the opposing team can go at on the defensive end. Greg says Jaylen Brown is notoriously a shaky ball handler. Yeah, that's that fun running joke that he can't dribble with his left hand whatsoever. Robert says one mind track to the basket might help. I'm assuming that's in regard to Kuminga. Berserk says, I just think when your team's best player doesn't play a game, there's a much bigger sense of urgency. Yeah, I agree with that. It says it's like Jokic misses a game and the Nuggets play great. Does that mean the Nuggets need to ship Jokic? Robert says, I remember in 2022, Jar was out and the Warriors got buried. Berserk says, with how this current roster is playing, does a Cam Johnson trade for Kuminga make more sense? Possibly. Yeah. Possibly. I think you'd look at a game like today, and I'm sure Joe Lacob would look at it, Mike Dunleavy, and really think to yourself, do we want to pay this guy $30 million, or is it worth paying a guy like Cam Johnson, who might not necessarily have the upside of Kuminga, but we know who he is. Like, he's a veteran player now. He's been around a while. He's an elite 3-point shooter. You could play him alongside Steph and Jimmy. I think that would be a great fit. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Cornelis says we need wins still. The NBA, if they can go, let them play. Robert says Kuminga just came back, maybe a little bit rusty. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to give him a couple of weeks, I think. Jackson says Steph resting against Toronto too, you think? At what point do you need to get Draymond some rest as well, is my other thought. Could you bring Steph back and maybe rest Draymond? And maybe hope, because as I said before, I think it's a game you could play Quentin Post for like 30 minutes. And you could probably play Kuminga for 30 minutes. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. We saw what happened yesterday against the shorthanded Nuggets and we got smashed. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But, I mean, the Nuggets are in a different scenario to the Raptors because the Nuggets, yes, they were missing Jokic and Murray, but they're still trying to win. The Raptors, I just don't think have any interest in winning right now. Right? They're legitimately tanking. So, yeah, I think you might bring Steph back, maybe rest Draymond potentially, and then go all out for 3 quarters, try and get a 20-point lead, and then hope that Steph doesn't have to play in the fourth. Essentially, Robert says TJD needs more reps for playoffs. Interesting point. I said yesterday. I know he played today. He played just over 4 minutes, but it feels like they're kind of done with him for the season. I don't know. His minutes were weird today. I didn't expect them. Like, yes, Steph was out, but what's Steph being out? What's that got to do with TJD? I can understand Pat Spencer getting some minutes, but why did TJD also play? I suppose second night of a back-to-back. That's probably what it was, trying to find some energy out of a guy that obviously didn't play on the first night. Uh, Berserk Monk says Steph should rest these next 2 games. Charlie says Kuminga is good on defense, so sign him up. No, I I don't know if you're being sarcastic with that. I don't think he's good on defense at all. He can be. He can be. I think he's got. This is the issue with Kuminga. It's like he can be. He's got the potential to be. Like at some point, 4 years in, you're about to pay the guy huge money. It shouldn't. It's got to be less about what he can be and what he could do, as opposed to okay, what does he actually deliver for us right now? Berserkmo says Toronto and Hawks should just be young guys deployed, rest Steph and maybe rest Jimmy on the Toronto game, then be ready for that Miami game. Possibly. Henry says Draymond Green is just playing a masterclass of defense all over again. He's insane right now. Yeah, defense tonight was insane, as you say. Robert says, I think if Warriors win the championship, Kuminga will automatically be signed regardless if he helped or not. Yeah, no doubt. This is what I said on his return. It's like it's not about Kuminga individually. And okay, yes, in this game they won, and Kuminga's going to get some heavy criticism individually. But at the end of the day, as you say, it's all about how far they go in the playoffs. I think even if they make the conference finals, it's probably enough to suggest, hey, this core that we've got is pretty good, and therefore we're willing to pay Kuminga. Again, as I said previously, if they got kicked out first round of the playoffs, then you got to have a legitimate discussion about it. That's where a Kuminga for Cam Johnson trade might come into play or something along those lines. Henry said, even yesterday's loss, Draymond's defense is 1 of 1. I mean, he did let Aaron Gordon go for 38. I'm not going to be too high on Draymond's defense yesterday. Aaron Gordon absolutely torched the Warriors. But yeah, huge performance from Draymond today. Gamer FTP, Cam is not a better defender than JK. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying Cam Johnson's a better defender than JK. I think he's potentially a better fit given his 3-point shooting offensively. Thenix says, you guys remember that we lost to Toronto this season? Yep, that was an absolutely woeful game. So fingers crossed. Toronto have just gone further into the crapper since then, and this team should be different with Jimmy Butler. Obviously was different in a game like this. Disappointing game yesterday. Didn't think they were capable of that with Jimmy in the lineup. But anyway. Double March JK, 4 for 60. Jeez, sign the Warriors up to that. If the Warriors did 4 for 60 for JK, that'd be incredible. But no, he's not going to be getting $60 million over 4 years. I think he'll probably be getting double that, maybe 4 for 120. Gamer FTP, no, JK is worth more than Wiggins. Interesting. Charlie says trade Pat Spencer. Kevin says Kuminga has to, or Laminga, I'm assuming you're actually doing that on purpose with the L, has to go. Just like I told you before he came back, JK 4 for a trash can, better team defender easily. Yeah, you might be right on Cam Johnson being a better team defender. Kuminga's probably got more potential as an isolation one-on-one defender. But I don't know. The Kuminga stuff, yeah, there's enough criticism for him going around. I don't want to get into it too much. It's very disappointing. He had a poor game. I'm not trying to defend that by any means, but I do want to give him, he's been out for 31 games, 4 games in. I want to give him a couple of weeks. I mean, we have to give him basically, like, we just have to hope it comes right. Like, he has to play a role. Like, what's going to happen? Are we going to get to the playoffs and Steve's going to bench him and, like, just not play him at all? Like, that's not going to happen, surely. And so you just got to hope he plays. I think you just got to hope he turns it around and finds his role within this team. And we saw on Thursday night against the Kings, like, it can work. Again, as we talked about before, he's a good play finisher, right? Not necessarily like he can create some stuff, but I think we've seen too much of that over the last couple of nights, and particularly early in this game. Like that first stint in the first half was awful. Like he was just out of control, must be said. Berserk Monk says, would be funny if Warriors sign a trade Kuminga to Miami for Wiggins back. Wiggins would be good on this team now. I mean, he's good on the team already, but like with Butler, yeah, Wiggins would be excellent. Jackson said, saw an article say sign and trade JK for John Collins, and I'm not opposed. John Collins had a good year. Shooting the ball far better. Yeah, I can see it. I could also see Utah going for it as well, to be honest. Dublin Marsh says JK was benched in the 2022 playoffs. Yeah, in his rookie year. We're now 4 years in. He was also benched in the 2023 postseason as well against the Kings and the Lakers. That was his second year. We can't be benching him 4 years. If he gets benched in the playoffs, then there's just no way he's coming back. Just no way, in no way, shape, or form is he coming back. So I just don't think that's plausible, surely. Kevin says Kuminga minus 33 on off. Warriors plus 22 with his butt on the bench. He's on off is minus 4 for the season. It's not just 4 games. Yeah, but like it's 4 games with Butler, and this team, I don't even want to hear individual stats really before the Butler trade. Like I just don't in terms of on-off numbers, plus minus stuff like that. I mean, this team was pretty bum average, right? This team was a 500 team before Jimmy Butler arrived. Okay, I don't want to hear individual plus minus on-off numbers before the Butler trade. Okay, so it's 4 games for Kuminga because this is the 4 games he's played since the Butler trade. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Ben says, fingers crossed, Kuminga could end up playing the role of the next Siakam in that Raps championship run. Interesting comparison. Don't mind it. Empire says, if Warriors make it past the second round, does that mean everyone who said Kerr was a bad coach this season was wrong and not having a second star was the reason for the losses this season? Yeah, I mean, I think we all said that the roster was fatally, well, at least I said the roster was flawed right from the outset in the offseason when they decided not to get a second star. And then probably a good thing because, God, who knows where this team would be with, having Paul George, right, who's had a disastrous first year in Philadelphia. Or, marketing hasn't even been great for Utah. So maybe it was a good thing that they missed out on all these star players and then finally got their hands on Butler, who's been great for them. But I do think that Steve drew some criticism early in the season, and that's always going to happen when the team loses, right? Absolutely. Because, people think that, if you made these changes, if you did these things, if you made these lineup decisions, if you changed these rotations, like the team would be better. And it's very easy to argue for that when the team's losing. So I get that. But at the same time, like there were still way too many players who warranted minutes but weren't top end guys. And Steve struggled with that, as any coach would, I think. Right? Having 12, 13 guys who you can all legitimately play, what are you supposed to do in that scenario? So, yeah. HR says JK was scoring 25 a game before injury. Charlie says, would you trade Pat Spencer to Kevin Knox if Kevin gains 5-7 pounds? Well, Kevin Knox is going to be on the team again in about 5 days' time. It's currently the 18th in America. They've got till the 23rd to sign another player, and it's going to be Kevin Knox. I can almost guarantee it, 99.9%. Like, what are they going to bring in another free agent option that's not been with the team at all at this point of the season? I don't think that's going to happen. Kevin Knox will be back on the team. And the reason I say this is because he hasn't returned to Santa Cruz, right, whatsoever. So he's just biding his time. The Warriors are just waiting until they have to make the signing because obviously the longer they wait, the more dollars they can save. Kevin Knox will be signed on the 23rd of March by the end of the week. Guarantee. Kevin says, how many clutch games did Warriors have? 4 points per 100 could have meant 5-6 more wins. Okay. HR says, Curry's an ego manager. He's not close to Spoelstra as a coach. Tell that to Miami fans right now who have watched their team lose 8 games in a row and who are, what are they, like, 4-15 since the trade. Kevin says, I'd give Knox all of Kuminga's minutes easy. Not sure about that. But anyway, we'll agree to disagree on a lot of the Kuminga stuff. I'm just trying to remain, I'm not defending his performance today. It was awful. But again, I'm trying to be optimistic about it because I think the Warriors need him, right? I think they need him, and hopefully he can get rid of some of this rust and be the kind of valuable player and key piece to the Warriors that we saw less than a week ago, like 5 days ago against the Sacramento Kings, where his return game where he's excellent, absolutely excellent. All right, Jackson says at least Kerr has trusting JK, kept in for most of the third quarter, brought him back for the fourth. Empire says I kind of feel bad for Wiggins and Kyle Anderson. They would have been great on the Pistons. Yeah, Heat in an absolute nightmare scenario at the moment. What are they now below the? Are they below the Hawks now in the standings? I was like, what? Like Atlanta are ahead of. Just double checking this. I saw that, didn't I? Atlanta are ahead of the Heat. No, sorry, Atlanta were always ahead of the Heat. Chicago, I always think of Atlanta and Chicago in the same sentence. Chicago are ahead of the Heat in the standings. Like, what? That's remarkable. Heat are down to 10th. They will finish at least in the top 10 because they're still 5.5 games ahead of the Raptors. God, so the Eastern Conference is absolutely horrific. Like, from the top six are fine, and then Atlanta is 7th with 33-36. Warriors would be 4th at the moment in the East, if they were in the East, obviously. Instead, they're 6th, clinging on to 6th seed there. 3 games back of the Lakers and the Grizzlies, 4 games back from the Nuggets. Man, if they just beat the Nuggets yesterday, it would have been huge. The game FTP says Clay got it worse than Wiggins and Slow-Mo. Good point. A few former Warriors out there not having a great time at the moment. But let's finish on the positive of the Warriors getting a big win today over the Denver Nuggets. They lost yesterday. The Nuggets a 104-93 win over the Bucks today. Massive performance from Jimmy Butler. Massive defensive performance from Draymond Green. Huge return game from Brandon Podziemski as well. So fantastic. Let's hope they can close out the homestand with a win over the Toronto Raptors, which you'd imagine they will on Thursday night. 6-1 on the homestand would be a very impressive and needed result, given the results around them aren't necessarily going Golden State's way either. They need to continue winning. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. Follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Anything happens between now and Thursday's game, I'll be back, but I don't think there necessarily will be. The Kevin Knox stuff, again, as I said, will probably come toward the end of the week. I'll be back for another post-game live after that Raptors game. Thanks again to you guys for commenting. Appreciate those of you that are watching on replay or listening via your podcast feed. Enjoy the next couple of days until we see each other again. Cheers, guys.